Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome all of you to Tech Index's online live course series titled Teaching in the Era of Technology. Tech Index stands for Trusted App for Kids. As all I can understand, this initiative is established to ensure parents and users to engage with safe application for kids in the digital world. Tech Index provides a comprehensive kids mobile app rating system. The ratings of any mobile app on Tech Index are done through review specialists with expertise in child development, gaming, psychology, sociology, and computer education and instructional technology. Today, Tech Index will give a start to the course series to equip educators working with children and youth with an in-depth understanding of navigating in digital world. This first webinar, titled The Impact of AI on Education, will be delivered by Professor Judith Robertson, and her research assistant, Colton Butter, will accompany her. In this webinar, they are going to inform us about how the evolution of digitalization has impacted the structure on education and what these changes might suggest about future learning environments. Professor Robertson and Mr. Botta will explain the profound impact of digital technology on educational practices and structure. Before, I would like to briefly introduce Professor Judith Robertson. I would like to briefly inform you about the structure of the webinar. We will have the first 50 minutes for the information that they are going to share with us. After that, we're going to open the platform for question and answers during the last remaining 10 minutes. We want attendees to post their question on the Q&A box, and we will address the questions during the allocated time. So briefly going back to the introduction of Professor Judy Robertson, she is the chair of the digital learning at the University of Edinburgh. She has been developing the educational technology with children and teachers since 1907. She is interested in computer science education and serious game for children and gender equality. So I would like to leave the floor to Professor Judy Robertson and Colton Botta. Thank you very much for joining us for this webinar.
Okay, well, thank you for the introduction. I'm just going to start sharing my slides here. I misheard you at first. I thought you said that I'd been working on the technology since 1977, which would make me older than I am.
I think I tried to say 1997, but I'm not really good with numbers.
Yep, I was born in 1976. So that would have been fast practice. Okay, so good evening, everyone. It's great fun to be here tonight, and I'd also like to thank Colton for agreeing to do half of the talk, the half that I didn't know enough about, so he's been busy researching that. We're going to be talking about the impact of AI in education, and I am using this picture because this picture was generated by one of my students working with DALL-E 2, an image generator. And I just like it because it's kind of unexpected. It's the merging of the future with the past. And I think that's what we need to do in education. So we know that this issue of AI in education, it needs urgent attention. And it's partly because these tools which you read about in the news, or you see in the news about DALL-E or ChatGPT, are really having the potential to profoundly change education. And if you think about some of the claims you see occasionally about the idea that human level intelligence from an AI is nearly here, then you can see why it is that we need to rethink human education. If machines get to the point where they're as intelligent as people, then what is it that people need to learn? And how are they going to learn it? What's important for us as humans? And so UNESCO, for example, have called for a debate, a public debate about the use of AI in education. And they say that that debate should be focused on the human-centered aspects of AI, because it shouldn't be that technology companies get to decide what AI should have in it. It should be that all humans get to decide what the that acceptable uses of AI are. And particularly, people are now starting to think about how AI literacy should be a core part of what people learn at school, because the generation in school now will be living and working with AI for the rest of their lives, and they will need to learn how to cope or how to thrive in such a mixed ecosystem, I suppose. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to switch it around and begin to start the talk by thinking about what children already know about AI from their everyday interactions. And maybe you've heard sometimes adults will say, oh, children understand technology because they can use iPads really well. And there's this assumption sometimes that children will learn about technology simply from being around it. And certainly in this case, that's incorrect. And I'll show you why when I tell you about study one. Now, it's really important to us that children's rights are respected, their digital rights are respected when we start to think about how AI might be used in schools. So I'm going to present a study which took place in December last year, which was asking children exactly that. How do they feel about the use of AI in school? Colton then has some examples of AI-related apps, which will be useful for teachers and learners. And he'll conclude by making some recommendations for best practices which teachers can use when they're using AI tools. So that's putting together what the children have told us and what we know the children understand with some of the apps which are available, and coming up with, I suppose, a guideline or a way of thinking about the issues which you need to decide on if you're going to teach with AI. So the first study took place last year, and what we wanted to find out was how much primary school age children understand about AI already from the main source of AI which they normally interact with. So about 90% of children or more in the UK have access to Alexa or Siri or Google Home or one of these other smart speakers. And so we wanted to know, what is their understanding of AI based on the interactions with these devices, which have now kind of infiltrated their homes. They're a standard part of life for this generation of children. So we did an interview, we did a survey and some semi-structured interviews in a couple of schools in Scotland, and the children were aged between 8 and about 11. So let's have a look at our findings. We asked them various questions. We asked them questions about what they thought about Alexa and the other smart speakers' cognition or intellectual ability. And one of the most interesting things about this graph, and all the graphs I'm going to show you, is look at the orange box in the middle. The orange box indicates maybe uncertainty on the part of the children. And although the majority of the children think that Alexa's smart, there's a lot of uncertainty about the other questions there. And the one which worries me most actually is, do you think Alexa always gives you correct information? Well, it's worrying that 35% of the children think that is true, but also a lot of them just aren't sure. The proportion of them who correctly say that Alexa doesn't always give you correct information is only at 20%. And I think that is actually a big problem, particularly because we know that AI tools, the new generation of AI tools, are not always accurate. So I think there's some education which needs to happen there. When we asked them in the interviews about whether Alexa's smart, they had a variety of different things that they said, and it kind of depended on the age of the child. The younger children, I think, had maybe narrower definitions of intelligence. So they would think that knowing how to do a difficult sum would be the very pinnacle of intelligence. And so from their point of view, Alexa's smart because she knows how to do hard sums. Some of the children had a recognition that any intelligence that seemed to come from Alexa actually came from human programming. And they recognised, some of them, that there are certain capabilities that she has or certain knowledge that it has, but not all. My favourite answer, though, is Alexa's definitely smarter than you are, but maybe not smarter than I am, which is an excellent answer. So that gives you an idea here. There's some kind of uncertainty. Some of the older children do understand that Alexa's programmed, but there's some kind of confusion as well. Now, in terms of feelings, again, you see this orange box of a lot of uncertainty. So for questions like whether Alexa has feelings or could feel offended, you see about, somewhere between 40 and 50% of the children aren't sure. Now, I'm not criticising the children here. I suppose, if anything, I'm criticising technology designers for designing technology which deliberately appears to be human-like in its responses. And of course, it wasn't particularly designed to mislead children. It was designed to be useful to people and respond in a conversational way. But I think that has the side effect of confusing children who will try to apply natural human inferences or human inferences you'd make about human interactions to the interactions with the device. And that's a problem, particularly now when there's generations of new tools which are designed to be chatbots to be persuasive towards children and possibly change their behaviour. I think that part of AI literacy should be allowing children to understand or teaching them that AI doesn't have feelings and it's not your friend. It's a piece of computer code. So there's some uncertainty among the children, though, when we talk to them at interview as to whether Alexa does have feelings. There's some subtlety there. So one of the answers is that currently AI isn't, I suppose, good enough or advanced enough to have feelings, but in the future, proper AI may have feelings, which is a position I actually agree with. Some children say AIs don't have feelings because they're not a person, they don't have brains or heart or anything like that. One of the children was inclined to give the benefit of the doubt because she thinks that perhaps pets sometimes have more feelings than humans give them credit for, so we should give the benefit of the doubt to AI in case they have feelings. So that's kind of interesting to me, that the children are having to make their own inferences simply because they've never been explicitly taught about these issues. There's also some interesting findings about trust. So at the moment, it's the case that Alexa and these other smart home systems will keep a track of command history. So there will be a record of all the commands that anyone in the house has given Alexa, and these are accessible to the account holder, typically the parents in a house. But they're also available to some Amazon employees for testing and like improvement purposes. So that means that both strangers and people who live in the house can currently access everything that's said to Alexa. And the children didn't realise that. They were upset at the idea that strangers could listen to everything they've said to Alexa or find out what they said to it. And in the interviews, they were very upset at the idea that somebody else in the house could see the command history. So that's kind of interesting to me because the children were concerned about privacy, but they had misunderstandings about where the threat of privacy was coming from. So, for example, they worried that people might be outside the house trying to listen to Wi-Fi traffic to find out what was being seen by Alexa, but they'd never occurred to them that their parents could see it, or their big brothers having their big brother find out what songs they were listening to was actually what they were worried about. But if you're 8, that's important, and maybe identity threat or privacy invasion from an abstract stranger isn't such a frightening thing. So here's some of the children's confusions about AI, which I think are worth sharing with you, because these are not unreasonable suggestions for how Alexa might work if you've never been told how it actually does work. So there's one child who thought that there was a really smart guy, and all the Alexas got smart because he sequentially plugged himself into each Alexa in turn. So now all of the Alexas are intelligent. It's not how Alexa works, but if your teacher hasn't explained it, you can see why they might think so. Somebody else thought that there was somebody who thought of all the possible responses that Alexa might ever need to make and pre-recorded them and stored it inside Alexa. That is plausible, but that's not quite plausible. But you can imagine why people think that that's not how Alexa works, because of course there's almost infinite number of things that people could say to Alexa. Somebody else thought, well, maybe it's actually a human listening to what you're saying, and then they carry out the commands on behalf of Alexa. So maybe Alexa's not real. Alexa is not a human. Alexa's a machine. Now, this last message is kind of interesting, and it's one of the reasons that I think that the children need to learn more about how these technologies are constructed or how they work. So somebody was worried that if I was to tell my Alexa a secret, then my Alexa might tell Colton's Alexa that secret, and then it could tell Colton, or worse, that then, you know, my next door neighbour's Siri might find out as well. Now, there could be an architecture where all the Alexas are directly connected and that they, for some reason, are connected to the other manufacturer's devices or not. It's technically possible, but that's not how it works. And I think that if you do understand how the technology works, you'd have a different set of privacy concerns than if you don't understand it. So those were some of the children's confusions. So just to quickly summarise the findings of that study. So we found that the participants tended to overestimate the intelligence of their smart speakers, but they were very uncertain about this. And while the children knew that Alexa was an artificial intelligence, they were confused. They thought it had human-like behaviours. So they were unsure about whether it had feelings or could do things for itself. So it's not like they literally think it's a human, but they over-attribute human-like behaviour to it. And in terms of the privacy and trust issues, the children didn't have accurate understandings about the real privacy and security threats, but they were uncomfortable with the idea of data sharing with parents or strangers. So that's study one. And that led us to make a video about Alexa with a high school drama club. So it's got child actors in it with a matching teacher's guide. And I can share the links in the chat later, as well as an article about that. So if you are a teacher, then you might find these resources useful to help you address some of these issues with your learners. So that was thinking about Alexa or AI in general at home. But I wanted to also think a little bit about AI in school from the children's perspectives. And the reason that I thought this was important is there's the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, and this has been adopted by many countries around the world, and it extends to the digital world as well. Now, one of the rights is about children's rights to be consulted about issues which affect their lives. And AI is going to have such a profound effect on society that we and various other colleagues think that it's really important to consult children on how AI should be used in their lives. We did a workshop with the Children's Parliament in Scotland in December, and specifically our focus was on AI for learning and in education. And we wanted to find out about what they thought about different features of AI tools and data sharing. Now, the way we decided to do this was we designed adverts for a fictional product called Maths Buddy, because we wanted to be able to change the different features of the app progressively in the advert to see what they thought about different levels of, I suppose, privacy invasion. And we wanted a way to start group discussions. So let me introduce you to the entirely fictional app, Maths Buddy. And this advert was designed to be a fairly standard AI tutoring system that gives you, tailors the questions that you get based on what you've previously answered correctly and can give you hints. Now, along here, it tells you the small print of the advert, really, which is about the data about which answers you get right and wrong may be shared with teachers and parents and scientists at universities. So this is a fairly standard AI type system. And what the children told us, the answers in green are things that they like, red are things that they disliked, and blue is just comments. So the children liked the idea that they could get a clue if they got stuck, or that it's personalised according to which questions you have correct. They noted that it might not be able to tell what level of challenge you want, which could be annoying. And they thought there was a potential for it to be frustrating if it made you lose your place, which I suppose is possible. Technology doesn't always work. Excuse me. So, Maths Buddy 2 is making things slightly more AI involved and more privacy invasion involved, or data sharing involved. So, Maths Buddy 2 can decide how frustrated or bored you are and give you more help if you seem frustrated. Now, this is actually based on a system which colleagues of ours wanted to design. And the way Maths Buddy 2 could infer user frustration is based on mouse movements and time taken to solve problems, which in previous research has been shown to correlate with how frustrated people are. So here we have a situation where this fictional product could infer motivational state and share that with parents and teachers. So there were more dislikes from the children about this. Some of them liked it as patient, and they liked that it could tell if you're frustrated. But others pointed out that it could easily hurt somebody's feelings by getting this wrong. There's some of the red comments are that they don't like that it doesn't ask you about data sharing. And one of them didn't like that the system would share it with your family because you might want to keep secrets and it would ruin it. So privacy is important. The idea of having private things and secrets, even from parents, is important, and a right that children have. Maths Buddy 3. Now, this might seem quite outlandish, but it's actually based on a news article I saw about a school system in China where the children are using technology from a Boston company where they wear these kind of caps which are wired to detect brainwave data. So Maths Buddy 3 uses this kind of system fictionally. And so it works out if you're having trouble concentrating, and it helps you to focus, and it gives you extra help and so on. And again, there's this, it's written there that there's data sharing with parents and teachers and technology companies. So there were a lot of negative reactions from the children. Some liked that it could help you focus and concentrate, but others pointed out that it's not respecting your right to privacy. It could be wrong, like it could tell you to focus when you actually are, and that would be frustrating. One of the children didn't like how that it shares personal data around. There was a general feeling that it was very weird and a concern that it could be unsafe, it could hurt you. Now, in my estimation, I don't think that this is going to be a problem in UK schools anytime soon. I think that it wouldn't fit with the values that we have in UK schools, but it is adopted in other countries in the world. I suppose what I'm saying is before adopting any kind of AI tool, children have a right to be consulted about whether this is something that they would like or not. So just to summarise study 2, the children did like some of the features of this AI-enabled technology that we told them about. So they liked having access to immediate help, and they liked having personalised questions. But they had some concerns about data sharing and privacy, which were reasonable. They had some concerns about whether it would be able to give accurate advice, which is reasonable as well. And they also had some doubts that the accuracy of the student model, the model which the AI system built up of the child, might not actually be true to how that child really was in terms of their learning or their motivational state. So that's my bit over. So I'd like you to keep in mind those aspects of what we've heard about children's views on what they already know about AI and how there's a need for AI literacy, and also how they would like or problems they see with AI systems in school.